Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is about the recent spring art and craft markets that I went to in April and in May. And I promised you guys a follow-up to let you know sort of how that went for me. So basically I went to two different style markets. The first one in April was more of a craft market, and that was the Flint Handmade Spring Craft Market. And Flint Handmade is a group of mostly crafters and artisans in that particular area, and they do events throughout the year. The second market was at the Mathai Botanical Gardens, which is part of the U of M campus, and so that's in Ann Arbor, Michigan. It's a very beautiful area, and this market is more catered towards artists only. So everything there was of a different caliber, definitely the artisan side versus anything that could be described as craft at all. I've been to the Flint Handmade event before, but it was their fall market, so holiday shopping time, and that one was packed, and I did okay for being an artist at that event, the fall one, but I wanted to see what the spring market was like. And so this one was very low traffic compared to their fall event, which is expected that a spring market is less busy, but it was dismal compared to the fall market that I went to a couple years ago. No comparison really, and that's even with all of the social media promotion that they do as well. The cost for that table was $50. I basically barely made back my table fee for that event, and then I did win a gift card for doing a bunch of the social media promotion, so that's like the only thing that sort of saved me about that event. So that is one that I will not be doing again. Number one, because of the traffic. I think that I could skew my products to appeal to more of a crafty audience in the future, but I just don't think it's worth it. I think it's risky to do a market with them that is outside of the fall market. The second market was much better for me, which I was expecting because it is an artist-specific event. So everyone coming to that event was coming there for artwork, for artists. So that already was a lot better for me. This event also had much better attendance than the Flint event. I guess sort of the event staff that we've seen at this Mathai location has been doing a great job of sort of maintaining a very good following from local people, and they have a lot of attendance there for that particular event specifically, even though they also had a plant sale going on at the same time. So they were doing this Mother's Day plant sale for 2 days, and then one day it overlapped with the artist market, and so people were going to both, and so that was really important. I was a little bit nervous that people might be going there for the plant sale and then just sort of casually walking through the art market, which definitely happened, of course. I think people always love to go to these events and just look, but I don't mind that. I think that's great. If people are going out to look at art, like, why not? Why complain about that? Anyways, so definitely in terms of sales, the Ann Arbor market was much better, and I sold a wider variety of items. So definitely the greeting cards and stuff was super popular at both events. You know, it's my lowest, basically the lowest end item in terms of the price. People were also very interested specifically in the cat card. It was like the thing that people kept coming up to look at. I think because it's cats, but also because it looked the most different from everything else that was on my table. Basically everything else was landscape work, and then there's the one cat card sitting there. So I think it stood out and drew people in. So that was kind of nice. But definitely this Ann Arbor market was busy throughout the day. It wasn't as busy as their, I guess, is it a fall or winter? I think their winter event, I think their holiday event is actually in the winter there, early December. So definitely much slower than that, but they had steady traffic throughout the event, which I think was key to everyone's success, is that you were having, you know, not like a big rush of sales at one point in time, but that you had people coming through buying throughout the day, which also helped the event go by nicely. I didn't necessarily feel super bored or super tired, because I feel like that can really affect you as a seller at these events, is if you get a period of time where you're feeling really like no one's stopping by your table, or it got really slow for everybody and you just sort of like slump in your chair, and maybe you don't look as good to buyers that are coming up to your table. So having the regular activity made me feel like I could remain engaged in the event, so that was important as well. The things that I was the most happy with in terms of these events was my setup, first of all. When I've done events before, I just sort of went with things that we already had, like between me and family members or friends, and I just sort of took whatever work that I had at the time. I didn't really think about putting together a whole theme or a look in terms of branding the table space and making more of a shop that looks like, that looks cohesive. essentially. So the look I ended up going with was this all white look. So the white wire grid, the white tablecloth, and then a few like light wood items overall. My original idea was going with sort of like an all light wood sort of look, but in terms of implementing the display ideas that I was thinking about, it would require a lot of knowledge and tools that I don't have necessarily, so I would have needed a lot of outside help, and it would have been a lot more to manage in terms of carrying stuff in on my own. So in that regard, the setup worked well for me because it's something that I can handle on my own as well. For both the events, I did have helpers, so thank you to my helpers. So I think setup is important in terms of the branding opportunity, but also in terms of how easy it is for you to manage on your own. And so both those elements I feel like worked out really well for me. And I definitely had compliments from people on the look of the table itself. I had compliments from vendors at one of my events a lot on the tablecloth itself. The cat card also worked out really well for me in terms of being an attractor of people to my table. It definitely stood out as being something different because it's in an illustrative style versus everything else that is the painterly landscape look. So I definitely had people coming over specifically for that, and I could sort of engage them in conversation just on that one particular item. So I think that that worked out really well. And I definitely like to pursue some other items to go with that, whether it's like a matching set of cards with different animals or more cat stuff. Like, I don't want to force myself to go that way, but I also love cats, so it's probably just a natural progression to do some more things that maybe in that particular vein as I move towards developing my illustration style. I was really surprised to see a lot of people interested in the moon paintings that I brought. I had a handful of the small 5x7s from my Etsy shop that are all sold out now after the second event. So that was something that I wasn't expecting, because to me they're some of the least complex pieces, so they're the easiest for me to make in terms of the skills, but also I thought that people would be attracted more to the colors of the landscapes versus the moons, but it seems like it was sort of reverse psychology, like because there were less of, you know, something like the cat card or something like those moon paintings, people were attracted to those items because they were different from everything else that they saw. So that was an interesting development. Overall, in terms of attendance, the Ann Arbor event that I mentioned before had great attendance for a spring event, so I think that that's one that I could do again in the spring. Also, with all the sales that I brought, my Etsy shop looks real nice now, so I'm really happy with that. The square works well for me. I have the one with the chip reader, and everything was really easy with that. Things that I wasn't so happy with, the first thing I have written down in my notes is how much time I spent on that dang tablecloth. Literally, it was over 3 days, and it was a huge mess in our apartment. I still have some areas to like spot clean on our carpet because it was just blue paint, you know, all over the place. But you know, it looks great overall, but I feel like me trying to save that little bit of money on the tablecloth turned into this huge spend of time. So that was kind of unfortunate, but it was good to sort of do something different. So, mostly negatives on that. But for now, I won't have to make another tablecloth. It's just kind of sad because the tablecloth is the one piece from my setup that I can't really use in our house. I also feel like I ended up with too much original work somehow. Definitely people were interested in flipping through stuff, so they were looking at all of the pieces, but the things that they ended up buying were like the small originals, if they bought an original, and then people were very interested in the greeting cards and stuff that I brought. So I think that having a range of both the originals and printed work is going to be the plan for the future. I mean, I think that was pretty obvious. It's just that I didn't want to invest so much time and then money into the stock needed to make prints, to make greeting cards, to make other items like that. So I think with the investment that I made in the events, it turned out pretty well for going with basically 90% original work. And definitely the event that was intended for artists, I sold more original work than I did of like the greeting cards and things like that. But definitely looking into like a fall or winter event, people are going and they're looking for gifts and things like that. So I think having the prints and cards is going to be more important at that time of year. I'm sort of in the middle on spring events. This whole thing was about experimenting if I could do an in-person event outside of the holiday season that would sort of balance the year in terms of those in-person sales. So I think overall it was a no-go on the first event, but the second one is an event that I would consider doing in the spring again. However, it is pretty obvious that the traffic is severely different between spring events and holiday markets, as you'd expect. But that kind of makes it more of a risk doing the spring events if you're going to be able to make a profit on that. So I think in terms of doing the spring ones, it's looking at the right audience and trying to just get yourself out there, network with people versus necessarily making a huge sales day. So I think that part of it could be good as well. And I think I would definitely want to be a little bit more prepared in terms of maybe taking emails or promoting my YouTube channel or promoting the Instagram at those events so that people could interact in a different way. So those people that aren't buyers per se, because there will be less buyers at a spring event apparently, so that they have another way to support you that's completely free. So I think that I'm going to do a little bit more of an in-depth blog article on my website going into the experience and some more additional tips for the spring market versus doing all that here. So if you guys have any tips for doing in-person markets as well for artists and illustrators specifically, definitely share those below and maybe they'll make it up into that article as well. So let me know what you guys think about doing in-person events and how you manage that sort of completely different experience from doing a spring market and a holiday market. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for following along on this little spring artist market experience, and definitely don't forget to thumbs up this video and subscribe if you'd like to see more videos from me. Thanks so much. I'll see you in the next video, guys.
They're real. Are these real? They're colored. Just a little wind. They're colored. Good job. Thank you.
I know they look like they're preserved, don't they?
Yeah. Amazing.